Hello, everybody, and good evening, and welcome to the United Stand. I don't really need to introduce the man next to me, but we will introduce him. Fabrizio, how are you doing?
I'm fine. Thank you, my friend. It's a pleasure to be together, and thank you again for the invitation.
No, we were meant to have a chat this afternoon at 5 o'clock, and I made the mistake. I thought, 5 o'clock in Italy is 6 o'clock in England, and it's not. It's 4 o'clock. So Fabrizio very kindly said he would come on and do it live at 7, which is fantastic. But we're going to blitz through. There's a lot of things to talk about, Fabrizio, and I know you're at the start of what's going to be a very busy time for you. Probably not going to get much sleep this summer. But let's start off with Manchester United. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has mentioned that he'd like 2 or 3 players this summer. From what you're hearing at the moment, and I know a lot of United fans would be interested to know, what positions do you think Manchester United will be looking at? Because some of us think we should be looking at 5 or 6.
Yes, you're right. So keep an eye, first of all, on the situation of the centre-back, because Manchester United also, if they extended the contract of Bailey, they want to sign a new centre-back. So let's see for the names, but the centre-back is one of the players that Solskjaer wants for the next season. Keep an eye on the midfielders, because we have to see what happens with Pogba, what happens with Donny van de Beek. So many situations to decide in the next weeks, and then to see if Manchester United will go to buy a new midfielder for the next season. For sure, something new in attack, and we know the dream of Jadon Sancho, and let's see what happens, but for sure they're looking for something new in attack, also after extending the contract of Edin Cavani. And so I would say these are the 3 positions, and also I would pay attention to the situation of the right back, in case they will decide to sign a new one to be in competition with Wan-Bissaka. Obviously, they are satisfied with him, but maybe they want a new one, and we have to see also what happens with Diogo Dalot coming back from the loan to AC Milan. So if AC Milan want to sign him, if they want him again, if other clubs will try or not.
Yeah, definitely. Just going back to the midfield situation, there's a few things I want to ask you about, stories that have been going on this week, and if you've heard about anything. Manchester United fans would really like to buy Declan Rice. Now, I was told that Declan Rice would really like to go to Chelsea because he's a fan of Chelsea, but we did get linked to, and I don't know whether you've heard anything about Declan Rice, Fabrizio.
No, talking about Declan Rice, what you said about Chelsea is true, that last summer he was desperate to join Chelsea. He really wanted to join Chelsea. It was close, but Chelsea decided not to pay 80 million euro to West Ham. So that's why they say that it's not easy to sign Declan Rice, because West Ham went a big fee. They start from 80 million, and let's see if they will change during the summer, but it's not an easy one. And we have to say, what I'm told is that Manchester United, first of all, wants to understand the position for Pogba and for Van de Beek, and only after they will decide for Declan Rice. So obviously they like the player, but there is still nothing advanced for Declan Rice.
And the one I was going to mention was the Getafe midfielder, Aaron Barry, which we got linked to from, I think it was Uruguayan reports, because he is Uruguayan. Anything on that? Because he's a bit of a strange one to be linked to United.
He's been scouted because he's an interesting player. Also, Napoli are interested in him since many years. So he's an interesting player, really, with good qualities, and he's been scouted. But United are scouting hundreds of players. So appreciated, I would say yes, but advanced no, for the same reason I said for Declan Rice. So they first want to understand what's happening with Pogba and with Van de Beek, and only after they will decide who they want to sign in this position. But the player is appreciated and scouted, yes, but at the moment, nothing else.
Yeah, and on Paul Pogba, I've said on the United Stand for probably about 3 months now that I think that Paul Pogba will be at Manchester United next season. But I think, knowing Mino Raiola, and I don't blame him, I would, if I was in this situation, even as a Manchester United fan, if I was in this situation, I would run the contract down till next summer, and then you've got freedom to do whatever you like. I don't think he will sign a new contract at Manchester United. I don't think, unless they throw silly money at him, because I just think why would you not run your contract down?
Yes, and at the moment, Pogba is still in the same situation, on the same position. As you said, he's not talking with Manchester United to extend the contract. Then Manchester United want to talk with him and with Mino Raiola to take a final position, because they can spend 3 months waiting for Pogba and what he wants to do for the future. So they want to meet and to decide together and to see what happens. But at the moment, the position for Pogba since last 6 or 7 months has always been he doesn't want to talk about the new contract. And, you know, the main problem on this situation is that Manchester United have no intention to sell the player for 40 million euro or something like this, with 1 year left on his contract. Many clubs think that the price will be around 40 or 50, but Manchester United have no intention to sell the player for this money. They want more than this if they have to sell Pogba. But at the moment, from Paris Saint-Germain, from Real Madrid, from Juventus, no one is offering this money. So obviously we are in May and let's see what happens. But that's why the situation of Pogba is still undecided, because they're waiting for him and for Raiola to take a final position.
Yeah, interesting. Also, you mentioned. Well, I don't actually want to talk about this player a lot, because I think if anybody follows you, you know what Fabrizio has said about Jadon Sancho a lot. That this deal was very close last summer. I remember us talking about this at the start of last transfer window, actually, and it obviously developed. Chelsea. I'm more interested in how easy. If United offer the money, do you think he comes to United, or do you actually think we should fear a Chelsea or a Liverpool if they've got the money? A bit of a different question.
It's an open race, you know. What I'm told is that an open race. So last summer, Manchester United were alone in the race. They had the opportunity to sign Sancho. They were really close, and they didn't sign Sancho. But now it's an open race. So Manchester United are in the race. The player loves the opportunity of joining Manchester United, so his position is not changing. He would love to join Manchester United, but also Liverpool are looking at the player if they sell some players in attacking position. And let's see what happens with Chelsea. At the moment, I'm told that Chelsea have not moved anything official with his agents or with Borussia Dortmund. So at the moment, Chelsea are not moving for Sancho, but we can exclude that they're going to do it if they sell some players. So at the moment, it's an open race. That's how they describe to me the position and the situation of Sancho. But really, in the last summer, he was really one step away from joining United. I saw a lot of rappers saying that he had no agreement on personal terms, some problems with the agents. Guys, it's not true. He had an agreement with Manchester United. He had a contract set with Manchester United. His agent had no problem with United or with Jadon Sancho. They never made any problem with the player, just saying, we want more money and you're not joining United. It's not like this. Sancho wants to join. The agents want Sancho to move. So the situation is so clear. It's up to United to decide if they want to pay or not for Jadon Sancho, because now is an open race, and Borussia Dortmund have changed their position. It's no longer 120 million euro. Now it's less than 100 million euro, so around 90, 95, we will see. So now there is the opportunity. The player is open to move if an important bid will arrive. It's up to Manchester United, and we will see. And I want to say thank you to the guys who are following us, because I see your messages and really appreciate what they're saying. And so thank you again.
I'm just laughing at them as well, Fabrizio, because they're just going, why did Chelsea need Sancho? I mean, this is the crazy season. We all would like Sancho at United, but you know, I think Chelsea are an interesting one. I mean, that you mentioned the centre-back situation. I think one of the things, and I'm going to try and put the questions to you as how United fans are feeling, because many of them message me. And obviously they follow you in the great work that you do. We know we're looking at a centre-back, and I think Chelsea may be looking at a centre-back, and a lot of clubs have looked at centre-backs. Obviously, I think Alaba probably goes Real Madrid. Meccano went by Munich. Raphael Varane is probably the elite signing that anybody could get this summer. In your opinion, is Varane the player that United will go for, or is it more likely a Koundé or a Torres or even I mean Koulibaly? It's gone quiet with him as well. Do you think it's hard? We know we want a centre back, but who is it?
You know, they have like a list, and it's normal for top club to have a list and then decide about what's happening with some names. You mentioned right names, but they have a list because, okay, Sancho is the main target, obviously, so to do something important in attacking position. So the strategy of Manchester United, what I'm told, is that they want to decide for the budget for the striker, and once they know about the striker winger, we will see what kind of position will be for the attacking player. Let's say like this. When they will decide on this position how much they will spend, they will decide what kind of centre-back they can sign this summer. So that's why they need a strategy, they need a budget, but it's not just about Manchester United. All top clubs work like this, so it's absolutely normal. Varane is the elite signing 100% because he has no agreement with Real Madrid to extend the contract. He has only 1 year left on his contract, so the situation is still open. And what I'm told is that Varane is open to move to English clubs in general. We will see if Manchester United will move. For sure, they know the situation, but they have not moved in an official way yet. Koundé is an appreciated player too. So they have a long list with different opportunities and with different price. Because, for example, I'm sure that Koundé would be sold for less than 80 million euro as he is the release clause, but Sevilla are asking less than this, around 60, 65, 55. So the price is different. They will decide once they know the budget for the attacking position. They will go in this sense with the centre back.
Okay, and interestingly with that, so basically, if we spend 80 million on Sancho, you might only have another 40 or 50 million for a centre back. But if you don't get Sancho, you might have 60 million or something like that, which makes sense because we're operating.
What I want to say is that I see really difficult in this financial moment to sign 3 top players in 3 different positions, spending 80, 70, and 80. It's really, really complicated in this moment. But maybe 2, you can do it. It also depends by the market. How much Real Madrid are asking for Varane? They've not decided yet because they are still saying we want to try to extend this contract. But at the moment, they have no agreement. So in some weeks, they have to say, okay, if Varane wants to leave, we are putting this price. And Manchester United are waiting to say what happens on this situation. They know 100%, for example, that Koundé is open to leave Sevilla this summer. So Koundé is really the big opportunity, in my opinion. But what you say at the beginning is really correct. Many clubs are looking for centre-backs. So it's Manchester United, Arsenal, maybe Manchester City will consider if doing something or not in the next weeks if they sell someone. And Italian clubs, also top clubs in Italy. So many clubs are involved. Barcelona are looking for a centre-back. Real Madrid, because they signed Alaba, but they want another one if Varane and Ramos leave. So, it's an open race for centre-backs, and will be interesting to see how Manchester United will decide their main target.
Do you think Koulibaly, I know this is probably nothing to do with United, do you think Koulibaly will stay at Napoli this summer? Or?
I think Napoli need to sell 1 top player this summer, and they have to decide between Fabian Ruiz and Koulibaly. They are the main ones. So they will make the decision once they know if they will be in the Champions League or not. They play on Sunday, and they will know. If they are not in the Champions League, they need to sell 1 player, and Koulibaly could be an opportunity. If they are in the Champions League, they can keep Koulibaly for 1 more season. That's it.
Staying in Italy, I'm just going to tell you a couple of... We had a story this morning coming from The Athletic over here, which I think you've heard of. And they mentioned agents of Ronaldo being open to coming back to Manchester United. Massive amount of money that would be involved. Do you see Ronaldo at Manchester United or anywhere else this summer? It's a lot of money, isn't it?
For Ronaldo, apart from Manchester United, because I'm told that at the moment there is still nothing serious or something like that. But the situation of Ronaldo, it's 100% depending by what's happening with the Champions League spot. Because imagine that on Sunday in Serie A, there are AC Milan, Juventus, and Napoli playing. And if Juventus win and AC Milan are not winning against Atalanta, Juventus will be in the Champions League. So they are still hoping for a Champions League spot. If Juventus will be in the Champions League, Cristiano Ronaldo could stay for 1 more season. If Juventus will not be in the Champions League, in this case, keep an eye on Cristiano as opportunity on the market. Then they will have a meeting immediately after with Jorge Mendes, with Cristiano, and with the directors of Juventus. And they will decide about what they want to do, the price, the Champions League situation, and more. So let's see what happens. But at the moment, I'm told there is still nothing serious going on for Cristiano Ronaldo because he wants to decide after the Champions League spot. And remember, Cristiano Ronaldo's salary is 31 million euro net per season. Is an enormous salary, and I see really difficult top clubs offering him this kind of contract. So you need also to manage to talk about the contract of Ronaldo, how many years he wants, what kind of salary, and many other things. So it's not an easy deal for Cristiano Ronaldo. That's it.
Thanks everyone who's watching live. Please smash a like on the video. Wayne just asked about David De Gea. I'm going to ask about David De Gea in a minute, but I just wanted to touch on a massive story in England this week about Harry Kane, and ask you what you've heard about Harry Kane. Is there any prospect? It looks, it's confusing because we've just got Cavani, we just mentioned Ronaldo there, a massive amount of money. Spurs are a very hard club to deal with. Is there any prospect that Harry Kane might be going abroad from what you've heard, or do you think it very much will be a move to a Man City or even a United?
In my opinion, will be one of the biggest fight, I would say. I use the word fight. Obviously, it's not a fight, but as Harry Kane said, he hopes to have a normal conversation and to decide about his future. But will be a fight because, Tottenham position is still the same. Daniel Levy and Tottenham people are saying the player is not moving. He's not going anywhere. If you want Harry Kane, you have to offer crazy fees that in this summer with financial situation, not just for United, for many clubs are impossible to offer. But the player wants to go. He's insisting, his desire is to leave. He wants to play Champions League football. So Harry Kane is going to insist, and he's ready to push because he wants to leave the club. And he's also ready to turn down a proposal to extend the contract for 1 more season at Tottenham. But Tottenham position is basically the same. You have 2 years of contract left on your contract, and so we want you to stay. So I'm really curious to see what happens in the next meeting they will have. About Manchester United, I'm told that they, with Cavani, are happy with center strikers and maybe they want something different. They were thinking about Harry Kane before Cavani signing a new contract because, with Cavani it was not easy to keep Cavani. They were working with Solskjaer, with executives of the club involved, with players involved to convince him because he was really keen to come back in South America. And so they were looking at the situation of Kane. Now, Manchester City are absolutely interested and they have intention to try and to open negotiation. But let's see, because you know better than me, with Daniel Levy, owner of Tottenham, it's really, really difficult to negotiate with normal player. Imagine for the best player of the team. So it will be really difficult.
Yeah, because I mean, obviously you spoke about the Cavani deal. I think you broke it quite quickly when we got Cavani, and we spent a lot of money to keep him. And he, like you say, he did want to go back to South America. But we keep getting these stories about Erling Haaland and Harry Kane, but it doesn't really make sense for United when you've got Cavani and we're trying to build elsewhere. So it'd be interesting with that. One other thing that really is occupying the minds of United fans is this, and the media over here are crazy about it. We're like, we've got two really good goalkeepers. We haven't really got a good midfield in that, but the English press always want to talk about the goalkeeper situation. We're being led to believe that, I disagree. I think David De Gea is a fantastic goalkeeper. We're being led to believe that De Gea is the player that they might look to move. Have you heard anything around the goalkeeping situation at Manchester United? Because if De Gea goes, he'd probably go abroad, I suppose.
No, at the moment, no. To be honest, they will decide about Henderson, De Gea, who will be the starter, because obviously they want to be clear for the next season. So having the number one, who is the starter, and they will decide. But at the moment, I'm not hearing them interested in signing a new goalkeeper. So maybe obviously a replacement, okay, it could be an opportunity, but a big one, no. Also because, on the market now there is Donnarumma, who is out of contract with AC Milan in some weeks. He's working with Mino Raiola. So after the Pogba situation, not so easy with Manchester United, but he's a big, big opportunity. Trust me, Donnarumma is an amazing goalkeeper. I know he never played European football, so maybe in Europe you don't know him so well, but he's a huge talent. In Italy, we consider him the new Buffon. So he's really strong and he's out of contract. He's available as a free agent, but Manchester United have not moved to sign him. So that means that they are not looking for a new goalkeeper, and I think Donnarumma will continue to negotiate with AC Milan to extend his contract.
I suppose that's the problem as well, isn't it? Because if David De Gea leaves Man United, he's going to go abroad. But then you've just mentioned Donnarumma, who is out of contract. So even if you were a PSG or a Real Madrid, or even if you want a goalkeeper, Donnarumma is going to be a lot cheaper than a David De Gea. So that will be interesting.
Yes, and also about De Gea, we had a lot of rumors here in Italy linking him with Roma, because Roma are 100% signing a new goalkeeper, and De Gea has been mentioned for Roma, for Jose Mourinho link, obviously, but Roma are not signing De Gea. Is impossible.
Just quickly on Roma, you just reminded me, we heard, obviously, Mourinho's going there. Juan Mata, Nemanja Matic, do you think there's some really good success that we spoke about last year of Premier League players going to Serie A? Can you see a few going into Mourinho, maybe Mata?
For Mata, the situation, as Solskjaer said, is not decided yet. They need to meet at the end of the season and they will decide together. For Matic, there are opportunities in Serie A. 2 years ago, he was in the list of AC Milan. Then nothing was completed, but he was in the list of AC Milan. Now they have different priorities. So let's see with Roma. But Roma has the priority to sell players. They have a lot of players to sell. Then they will decide for targets. For sure, Mourinho has a fantastic relationship with Matic, but let's see if he wants to sign this kind of midfielder. In my opinion, he will go for something different.
And I just while we're talking about Mino Raiola, it was very noisy around Erling Haaland with Dortmund getting Champions League football, and in a year's time, as you've always said, he's got that release clause. Do you think Haaland stays at Dortmund now for another year?
I think that they want to keep him, and to bring Haaland out of Dortmund this summer, you need to spend more than 150, 160 million euros. So the answer is yes. It's really complicated. When one club decides to go all in for Haaland and selling only Erling Haaland, or the player is staying, because with Borussia Dortmund staying in the Champions League, he can have another season in Borussia Dortmund. And also for the top clubs, it's smarter maybe to say, okay, let's do a strategy to sign the player next year for 75 million euro and not spending this season 160, and then it's really complicated to negotiate also with Raiola, because we say 160, but you have to pay commission to Mino Raiola, you have to pay a huge salary to the player who is asking around more than 10 million euro net per season. So it will be really complicated to sign Haaland this summer. I think he's going to stay at Borussia Dortmund if no one is going to offer more than 150 million euro.
Yeah, it seems to have gone quiet around that. Camavinga, somebody mentioned Camavinga and Manchester United today. Very, very good player. Probably looking to leave. I think Zidane and Real Madrid was always an option, but we don't know about Zidane's future. Have you heard anything on Camavinga?
What you said about Zidane is 100% correct. For Camavinga, it's so important to see what happens with Real Madrid, because Zidane is a big fan of the guy, but it depends on what Zidane wants to do. At the moment, the feeling around Zidane and the feeling around Real Madrid is that he's leaving the club, but he's not decided yet. He will decide immediately after the last match if they win La Liga or not. We will see. And Allegri is the main option as new manager for Real Madrid. But Camavinga depends by this situation for Real Madrid, because they have always been looking at the player. Many clubs are interested, but at the moment I'm told nothing serious yet going on. But they expect big proposal coming for Camavinga this summer. Yes.
I've said to our viewers, they're like, "What's going to happen this summer? What's going to happen this summer?" And I've said, "Look, I think we will buy a few players." But if I was betting, I said, I think we'll get Sancho and Kieran Trippier. Atletico Madrid are probably going to win the league. You mentioned a right back at the start of the show. I know you've mentioned Max Aarons in the past, but Trippier looks like a player that United have been linked to that fits in with what you were saying at the start, that would be an experienced right back to supplement Aaron Wan-Bissaka.
Yes, could be an opportunity. It could be an opportunity. We have to say what Atletico Madrid will decide with right backs. So it's still an open situation, but for sure, Manchester United have been appreciating Trippier for many years. He's always been one player around Manchester United because he's always been appreciated also by people in the board. So let's see if they will bid. At the moment, there is no bid on the table for Atletico Madrid. But I'm told that Atletico Madrid are considering to sign also a new fullback. So why not? Let's see. It could be an opportunity. But the key for Manchester United will be understand what happens with Diogo Dalot, really, with AC Milan. Because who knows if the player is coming back, what they want to do with him. So that's it.
Lots of people are mentioning people like Pogba and Declan Rice, which we've actually already spoken about. I mean, I could ask Fabrizio about Bissouma at Brighton, but it might not be your sort of area about Bissouma. I think he's been linked to Arsenal from what I know. Have you heard anything about Bissouma in Brighton?
He's been linked to Arsenal, yes, but I'm told that he's not the hottest name for Arsenal, you know? They're looking maybe for something different in midfield. So that's the situation. For United, at the moment, no, but we are in May, so let's see what happens in the next months.
Yeah, lots to go. And Jesse Lingard, likely to stay in the Premier League, I think I heard, but there was links with Italy and Dortmund before. Yes.
I think Premier League. Premier League is the priority. Also because the links with Italy were because Mino Raiola was his agent, so obviously he was talking with some Italian clubs, AC Milan, Roma in the past, but now the situation is different. He's done so well in Premier League, so he's open to stay in the Premier League. And let's see if the right proposal will arrive for Manchester United, because they don't want to do any discount for Lingard, like a lower price or something like this because of the financial situation. You have to pay to sign top players from Manchester United. That's the position of the club.
Yeah, we spoke about Pau Torres, didn't we? And I think he's probably one of these centre-backs that is in the merry-go-round of centre-backs, because Real Madrid look for a player as well.
That's it. He has a clause. He has a release clause. So it's around 65 million euro after last summer. The price of the clause changed. But yes, he's now one of the names, but nothing decided. As we said, Varane, Koundé, Pau Torres, they have a lot of options, but it depends about how much they can spend for the striker, and then they will decide for the centre-back. But keep an eye in particular also on Koundé, I would say, more than on Pau.
I've never known a summer like it, Fabrizio, where there's so many quality centre-backs and so many clubs looking for them. I think it's going to be really interesting where they end up. One thing I did want to ask, and I know you've got to go in a couple of minutes. The last year you said to me on this show that watch out for player swaps, because there's not a lot of money around, but player swaps could happen. What's your thought on this transfer window? I mean, I don't know whether, you know, what you think is going to be the biggest signing. Do you think we might see player swaps again? What's your general thought in relation? Do you think there will be a lot of activity?
First of all, I think will be a particular market because, you know, we are in a complicated, when I say we, I mean people in football are in a complicated situation because of the financial way after the COVID. So it's normal that won't be so easy. And also about the timing, because we have the Euros. So I expect like the first 2 weeks of June to be with some moves. Then during the Euros, the market is like a bit calm, and then after the Euros will be like a bomb exploding in the last 2 weeks of July and obviously in August. So the timing will be key for top clubs to sign important players. Yeah. And I expect swap deals. I would say yes, but you know, sometimes swap deals are not easy because of the salaries of the players. So when we talk about swap deals, I see many times Dybala, for example, involved in rumors about swap deals. But he mentioned that his wage is so high and he's asking for more than 10 million euro per season for his next contract. So that's why swap deals many times are getting complicated. But I'm sure that we will have this kind of solution, and many times also some loan with obligation to buy. It's the new way to sign players if you can't pay immediately. But it's getting complicated with German clubs on this side, because you know that, for example, Sancho for Manchester United was really, really close last summer. They were offering this kind of solution, but Borussia Dortmund said, no, we want 120 immediately or nothing. So with Italian clubs, you can do it. With German clubs, it's really, really difficult.
Yeah, I think you mentioned it there. I keep forgetting we've got our Euros, and obviously that makes everything, you know, like you say, Paul Pogba goes to the Euros, he's focused on France, he comes back from that, he goes on holiday for 2 weeks, and then 2 weeks after that, you start in a new season. So it could get really squashed in together, couldn't it? Fabrizio, I know you've got to get off because you have to do Sky Italy or something like that.
Yes, I have to.
But no, it's been a real. We'll have to get you on again. But it's been. I really appreciate how quickly we've gone through everything there. I think we've covered absolutely everything. I'll stay on for a few minutes, everybody, just to go through what Fabrizio has said, because we literally have covered everything. But there's quite a lot to digest there. But I just want to give. Well, everyone knows who he is anyway. But I just want to give him a big shout out because you're in for a very big summer. Very big summer, aren't you?
Thank you. I'm sure there will be a fantastic summer and a lot of here we go coming. So thank you really for the invitation. Thank you guys for your messages. Really appreciate it. And I'm always reading you on my social media. And so thanks really so much. And we stay in touch.
Thank you, Fabrizio. Take care. I'll speak to you soon.
Bye.
Bye. Right. That just reminds me, I just need to change this because that is not right. There we go. We'll get myself back like that. Or can we do that? No, we'll do that one. So yes, we are back with the comments there. I just want to say a big, massive thank you to everyone who's tuned in. 16,000 people watching it on a Friday night for Fabrizio Romano. I'm going to go through absolutely everything we spoke about because we will wind our way through it. But look, I always say that I speak to people, and I do speak to people. And I was meant, as I said this morning, I was meant to be speaking to Fabrizio this afternoon, and then I would have mentioned it in the 8 o'clock show, but I messed up the times. For some reason, I thought 5 o'clock in Italy is 6 o'clock in the UK, but it's not. It's 4 o'clock. So, and I said, "Oh bloody hell, I've messed up." And I said, "Look, is there any way we can do it at 7 o'clock?" And he said, "Yeah." And I said, "Any way we could do it live?" And he said, "Yeah." So legend for doing that. Really, really good. So really, really happy that we managed to get that, and we had that whirlwind update that we expected to give you. So let's go through some of it, and let's go through some of your comments as well. Mark asked about Euro 21 deadline for Jadon Sancho. I didn't ask about that, Ben, but potential swap deals we've done as well, Deno, and our Spotifying as I don't know what that means. I mean, in relation to Sancho, I will go through everything Fabrizio said and cover it for you and take some of your questions as well, because obviously we were talking before we went live as well about a few things which I can bring in. But in relation to Sancho, as Fabrizio said, and he said it a year ago on this channel, Jadon Sancho would love to come to Manchester United. And he said it again tonight. Jadon Sancho would love to come to Manchester United. It is an open race. But effectively, when you read, I think Sancho is probably the most boring thing we mentioned in the show tonight because it's been the same for a year. And as Fabrizio clarified there, if United pay the money, they will get Jadon Sancho. But there is now an open race. So it's very, 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 very simple with Sancho. He still wants to come to United. And if United pay the price, they will get him. What I thought was interesting is when we spoke about the centre defensive midfield situation and the centre-back situation, because one thing about stories from journalists online is that you don't get to dig a little bit deeper. And I know Fabrizio said some of this stuff before, but we did get to dig a bit deeper tonight. So he has said about the centre-back situation, watch out for Koundé, watch out for Torres, watch out for Varane. But what we got tonight is that really, the centre-back for United is very dependent on who the attacker is. If we are to sign we're going to sign Fabrizio Romano. He'd probably be quite good at transfers for us, be better than what we've got. If we sign Jadon Sancho, that's £80 million. Now, how much more money do Man United have? If they've got another 50, well, you could buy Koundé. You maybe get Varane, 130 million. If you've only got 100, well, you've only got 20 million and what you make from sales. So United's centre-back situation is very much, and Fabrizio's confirmed it tonight, it's very much up in the air. It feels like Sancho is everything, and then if you don't get Sancho, then you maybe get a top-class centre-back and a top-class centre defensive midfielder. I don't know. But Varane is a consideration, and he's open to coming to England, as Fabrizio said. I'm not convinced that Varane is going to sign a new contract at Real Madrid because I'm just not convinced he is. Koundé got mentioned a few times by Fabrizio, which I think is encouraging, more than Torres. So at the moment, it sounds quite positive around the centre-back situation. I mean, Man United can turn a positive into a negative, as we know, but it's looking like it's Varane and Koundé as the two that United are most looking at, if the money permits. What about a CDM? What is our obsession with the striker? That's one of the least crucial positions we need. It might be the owners, but I don't think it's on Ollie. Well, if you listen to that interview, and you can always go back and listen to it, the interesting thing is that Fabrizio actually did say, if you were listening carefully, when we were talking about Kane and we were talking about Ronaldo and we were talking about Haaland, he did say that United, with Cavani staying, don't feel that a central striker is the priority. A central forward is not the priority, and therefore you're talking Sancho. And Fabrizio was very close to that Cavani extension, and he reiterated it again that, you know, United put a lot of work into keeping to Cavani. There was very big indications that Cavani was going to go, and I'm going to talk about the midfield and what Fabrizio said in a minute, but there was very big indications that Cavani was going back to South America, and United worked really hard to keep him. To work hard to keep him and then go get Harry Kane or that, it doesn't make sense for United unless they feel that this is the opportunity to get the striker that they're going to need in a year. So I wouldn't write off we're going to get a striker, but from what Fabrizio's saying there, it's more Sancho. They've got Cavani this year. Sancho's what they want and what Ollie's always wanted. So I think that there was a hint in there, what Fabrizio said about the striking situation and Harry Kane, that United, you know, they've got Cavani now. It's not the priority. So we'll see if that comes to pass. He did mention the midfield situation, which I do want to mention. And what he said about that, and he said this, I did read this from Fabrizio before. So this is not necessarily, the statement's not necessarily the breaking news, but it led us down into Declan Rice and Aaron Barry. He said that the midfield situation is dependent on Pogba and Van der Beek. Now, that's the second time I've heard Fabrizio Romano say that in the last couple of weeks, that United's midfield situation, whether it be Declan Rice or anybody else, is dependent on what happens with Paul Pogba. Now, look, don't shoot the messenger with that. That's just what we've heard. But that's worrying, because I think that whether Pogba stays or Van der Beek stays or both stay, that neither of them are centre defensive midfielders, and that's what United need to buy. So we're hearing this quite a lot now, that United are not looking at midfielders until they know what happens with Pogba and Van der Beek, and yet we don't use Pogba and Van der Beek in the position that we need, which is the CDM situation. So, but interesting. One of the things I did want to put to Fabrizio, and you probably heard me say it, was I think Pogba runs his contract down. I've been saying this for a long time, as you know, watching the show. I think he runs his contract down. And that's not because I think I've got inside information. I just think if you are a footballer with 1 year left on your contract, why would you sign a new contract? You know, you're going to earn loads more money next year. And you're also, it's not just about the money. If I'm at Man United and I don't think United are going to win titles and the offer for a new contract isn't that good, I know in a year's time I'm going to get a lot more money on the contract. And you know what? It's that exciting thing, isn't it? Oh, I could go to Juventus, I could go to Real Madrid, I could go to PSG, I could go to Barcelona. I don't think he signs a new contract. I think he's still at the club, and that's what happens for another year, and then he runs his contract down. And what did Fabrizio say? Look, Pogba has made it clear for the last few months that he doesn't want to extend his contract. Man United are waiting to see what happens. There will be a final discussion with Raiola and Pogba and the club over the summer, but at the moment, you know, that's not what Pogba wants to do. He doesn't want to extend his contract. So we'll see what happens with that one. We did speak about Declan Rice, and obviously Fabrizio agreed with me that, you know, Declan Rice wants to go to Chelsea, wanted to go to Chelsea, a lot of money that West Ham want. And, you know, that's the situation with that. Aaron Barry is a player that United have scouted, but they've scouted many players, and they do scout many players. So clearly nothing in relation to that. We spoke about Trippier. Logical, but let's see what happens at the end of the season with that one. De Gea was quite interesting, wasn't it? Talking about David De Gea. I mean, this is why it's great to talk to somebody like Fabrizio Romano. He's abreast of everything. I mean, I asked him about the Bissouma thing, and I thought, you know, maybe I did him a disservice, really, because I was like, you know, has Fabrizio got the ear to the ground to know what's going on with the Brighton midfielder? Well, yes, he has, because Arsenal aren't looking at Bissouma by the sounds of it. They're looking for something a little bit different. United not linked with Bissouma, by the way. But with De Gea, very interesting what he said about Donnarumma. Donnaruma's out of contract at AC Milan. So this makes me... I mean, look, I'll be absolutely honest. United should sell Dean Henderson. I know that sounds really harsh, but United will get 40 million for Dean Henderson like that. He's on 140k a week, and they'll get 40 million for him because people will be happy to pay that money and that wage. And you've got it. If you want to sell De Gea, you've got to get 40 million and somebody to pay him 375k a week. That's not going to happen. And you're going to lose a lot of money. Now, either United are like, well, we don't care about losing the money because we won't have to keep paying his wage. Well, that's a business decision. It's not a football decision. But also, if you are Juventus or you are PSG or you are Real Madrid and you do want a world-class goalkeeper this summer, are you going to spend 50, 40 million to Man United and then 375k a week to David De Gea, which is a lot of money? Or are you just going to pay the wages to Donnarumma and not pay a fee? So it's not like De Gea is the #1 goalkeeper available this summer. There's a goalkeeper that's very good. Donnarumma is very good. Fabrizio's right. And if he's free, you know, is selling De Gea even easy to do? And I don't think it is. I really don't think it is. But we'll see what happens with that one. Lingard staying in England, which is, you know, I basically said that, but Fabrizio said, yeah, I can see that happening. And the interesting thing, I think, is that the transfer window in general, I mean, it was, as I said to Fabrizio, and I'm sure many of you saw him on the show a year ago, he said that, you know, I think that swap deals are still, you know, really the thing that could happen this summer. He mentioned the Euros. But the thing about swap deals, and this is where, look, hypothetically, United want Kane and they say to Spurs, we'll give you Lingard and Martial. People get very excited about that because they think, well, you can give Spurs 70 million plus Lingard and Martial, and then you get Kane. Let's do it. But it's not. And Fabrizio mentioned this as well. It's not that simple because a swap deal isn't just Kane goes one way, Martial and Lingard go the other. Kane's on 200k a week. Lingard's on 100, Martial's on 250. So Spurs let Kane go and his 200k a week goes, but then they're taking on 350k a week. So the wages become a massive issue in it as well. In your opinion, Mark, what could be the surprise move of the summer, says Joshua Bowwater? We'll get your questions in. I want to take some of your questions now because I think I've only probably half summarized what Fabrizio said, but I think if you ask me questions, it's probably easier for me to you know, jog the memory, or if you have any other questions as well. The surprise signing of the summer, there will be a surprise, and maybe it will be a Lewandowski to Chelsea or a Varane to Manchester United. I still think a Varane to Man United would be a surprise, not because we don't need a centre-back and not because Varane won't leave Madrid. Just I think it would be a surprise for Manchester United to be that competent. To go and get a Varane would be massively competent. To get a 28-year-old Varane would be massively competent, and it would surprise me. But I wouldn't be. I think Chelsea are going to buy a top-class striker. I don't think they can get Harry Kane. I don't think they can get Erling Haaland. So therefore, you're wandering into territory of who will be the top-class striker at Chelsea. I wouldn't be surprised if they pulled off something ridiculous like an Mbappe or a Lewandowski. I think Chelsea might produce a surprise again. City always surprises, says It's Gaming HD, but they don't normally surprise us with something massive. And that's not to say they're small, but, you know, I don't think... I mean, look, it looks like City and Harry Kane. Well, to do that deal, they're going to have to spend a ridiculous amount of money. Randy says that I'm truly worried about our summer because many clubs will have a deadline due to the Euros. Do you think our board will be able to complete our deals? I don't think that these Euro deadlines actually exist because I understand why Dortmund had a deadline last year because, you know, it was August the 8th, wasn't it? And then there's another month till the season starts. It makes no sense to have a Euros deadline because if you have a Euros deadline, what if your player goes and plays well in the... I mean, look, if Dortmund set a deadline for Sancho before the Euros, great, let's get the deal done. But would it not be good for them to set a deadline after the Euros? Because if he plays well during the Euros, you might generate more money. So I actually lean towards what I was saying to Fabrizio. I think if these players go to the Euros, and let's not forget, you can put a deadline before the Euros if you want, but the Champions League final is a week tomorrow on the 29th. That's the last game of the season, the 29th of May. The first game of the Euros is something like the 11th of June. Like it's literally 2 weeks later. So you've got 2 weeks between the Champions League final and the start of the Euros. Well, a lot of players are going to be going straight into international duty. So I don't see that there is a lot of time. I think what happens is these players go and play in the Euros, they go on holiday, and then they come back for pre-season. I think that we're going to get a very congested July. I think July is going to be the time. June's going to be busy, and there'll be a lot of speculation, and deals can happen in June. But I think the Euros are what's going to be happening in June. I think we're going to get a very congested transfer window. And remember, the transfer window in the Premier League doesn't close before the start of the season. It goes into August. So I think July and August will be very, very busy. That's what I think. How much time is left after the Euros to sort the deals out and integrate the new player to the squad and for the selling team to get a replacement, says Billy? Well, there's 2 months. Because I think the transfer window doesn't close till the end of August, and I think the start of the Premier League is the beginning of August. So yeah, it'd be great. It will be. There'll be plenty of time. So I mean, if Dortmund impose a deadline, they impose a deadline, don't they? But Man United will need to learn. If Pogba runs his contract down, it's better to swap him with Real Madrid for Varane this summer, says Vaz. Look. All I can say and repeat about Paul Pogba is what I've said many times before. I think Paul Pogba runs his contract down because I would do that. I would do that because I think that, you know, this is the big contract of his life. This is the big opportunity of his life. He's been at United for 4 years and he's not won a Premier League and he's not won a Champions League. I don't think he's going to win one in the next 2 years. So if Paul Pogba wants to win the big prizes, and also, you probably fancy a bit of a change. You know, he's not played. I think Paul Pogba wants to play for Real Madrid. And I think in a year's time, he can go and play for Real Madrid. So I just think Pogba will run his contract down. And the thing is, people say, we'll swap him with Varane or this, that, and the other. Pogba's still got to say yes to that. I don't think Pogba will. I think Pogba will just wait a year. Even if Real Madrid and Man United agree a deal to swap Varane for Pogba, doesn't mean Pogba will agree with it. I don't think Pogba will agree with it. Mark, I think it will be a good summer for United for 2 reasons. The Glazers have to appease the fans, and we now have a sporting director, says Vincent McDonald. Is it Sancho plus 70 million, 5 million net, or 75 million net, including him, since he was part of last year's budget? Oh, Vinit, you know full well that United's signing of Sancho will be part of this year's budget and not last year's budget. Brian Caleb says, why are we waiting for the situation on Pogba to sign Rice? I don't find that logical, but it's the second time that Fabrizio said that United are more interested in what's going to happen with, and he keeps mentioning Van der Beek. I mean, should we not take the hint there? Should we not take the hint there that, you know, that Van der Beek is being mentioned? Let's see what happens with Van der Beek. Is there any opportunity that Van der Beek's going to leave this summer? Because that's going to upset a lot of people. Hi, Mark. If Kane goes to City, where do you think Haaland will ultimately end up? Does United have a chance? I mean, look, you know, you can't say no. Even under the Glazers, you can't say no. I remember the summer we signed Paul Pogba, and I remember doing this show, and I said, I personally don't think that that Paul Pogba will come to Manchester United. I thought it sounded ridiculous, and then we did it. So Erling Haaland could come to Manchester United next summer, and we will definitely be looking for a striker next summer. I personally, and this might sound a bit far-fetched, I would like to see Cavani do well next year and then go, Greenwood to develop next year into a number 9, and then maybe you look at look, it sounds ridiculous, but maybe you look at a Calvert-Lewin or someone like that. And, we don't have to go for Erling Haaland. Or maybe there's a striker called Charlie McNeil or Joe Hugel coming through. So I think next year is really important for Mason Greenwood to develop from this generational talent into a number 9. Because if he becomes the number 9, I think he can, you won't really care about Erling Haaland anymore. You'll be obsessed with him. So I think next year is huge for Mason Greenwood. And I expect Mason Greenwood to develop next year from a right winger into the proper position, which is a number 9. So let's see what happens with that one. But yeah, I do. On the other hand, I think Erling Haaland is an obsession for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, and I think that United will always try and get involved in that. Mark, this is what I think will happen in the summer. We will get Sancho and Varane and chase a CDM until deadline day, where we get some random promising teenager. Well, remember after this lad, the 19-year-old, is it Sulemina or something like that? We're after this 19-year-old who is a winger forward. So we'll have to see if anything develops with that. Mark, I'm afraid we're going to have a summer similar to Louis van Gaal's first window. A lot of third and fourth choices, unfortunately, says Jude. Hey Jude. Pardon the pun. I agree with you. I think that I said this morning. It seems to me that there's not a lot of clarity on what United are doing. And even when, look, Fabrizio Romano doesn't work for Manchester United. He's a tier 1 transfer specialist. And when you listen back, and I will be listening back because we whizzed through so much stuff, and there's probably loads of quotes in there that I've missed. But from the summary of what I heard from Fabrizio, there's not a lot of clarity on what United are doing. They want a centre-back, but they haven't settled on which one they want. They want Sancho, but they haven't settled on the price. If they'd like a midfielder, but they're waiting to see what happens with Paul Pogba. Well, if we want a midfielder, like for me, the centre defensive midfield position is priority number 1. If you listen to what Fabrizio said a couple of times now, we're not looking at that until we know what's happening with Pogba. We're not going to know what's happening with Pogba until the middle of July at the earliest. So the most important position for us to buy a player this summer for me is centre defensive midfield. And yet we may well be waiting until what happens with Paul Pogba in July. It seems like United are wandering into another transfer window, like Jude says, where you may well get what happened with Van Gaal, where you get an influx of players coming in July. And we did do a lot of business in July that year with Van Gaal, but they're not the priority signings. They're not the first choice signings, because we're wandering into a transfer window lacking ruthlessness and aggression again. We're wandering into it going, oh, please stay. Are you going to stay? All right, we'll wait. Oh, shit, we've missed out on all the players we wanted now. Go and get the third or fourth choice. Ben White. We might see something different as Mendes met with Bruno and the board and him being connected with Wolves. Maybe that midfielder will be Neves. I don't know who said that, but that's an interesting thing. Personally feel Van der Beek was signed because Pogba was set to leave after the pre-scheduled Euros. Van der Beek leaving in one season would be disaster for him and a waste for us, Zach Shea. Hey, Mark, if Dortmund want the deal to be done before the Euros, shouldn't United be expediting getting Sancho before the 11th of June, says Nikhil. There's that, if Dortmund want the deal before the beginning of the Euros, that helps anybody who buys Sancho, whether it's Liverpool, Manchester United or Chelsea. I would do that deal as quick as possible, because if Sancho goes into the Euros and has a really good Euros, his price goes up. So I would be happy to get that deal done. And just quickly on Neves, I don't want to neglect it. I do like Ruben Neves, and I think he's certainly better than what we've got in our midfield. But I wouldn't, people are talking about Neto and Neves and these players leaving Wolves because Nuno's leaving Wolves. I mean, look, if Spurs end up with Nuno, can I just say, what are you on about? What are you on about? Mourinho, you didn't like Mourinho. Nuno's not much different. The way he plays football is pretty passive, to be polite. And he's not had a great season at Wolves, has he? So, but that's down to Spurs, what they do with that. But look, Wolves have got big Portuguese connections. Just because their manager goes doesn't mean they don't go and bring another Portuguese manager in which case, why would Neves and everyone leave anyway? So I don't think that necessarily has to happen. Chelsea Football Club got a higher power. Got me. No, rubbish. The shopping went well, thanks. Susan's shopping went good, which is great. Advath says we need players for the now and not the future. Mark, I'd say best United will get is Varane and Sancho and no CDM, so McFred next season. Ewan, I think that is... I'll answer the question about the transfer budget from FPL Giant as well. But if you take into account what everybody's saying at the moment, and look, I speak to more than Fabrizio, I speak to a few people, and I also read a lot of things like we do on the news show. I think it's very clear that, you'd be a fool not to think United are looking at a Sancho and a centre-back and nothing else. Like, that appears to be... If I could summarise where we're at the moment, and this is basically what Fabrizio said tonight, but it's also out there as well if you want to read it. Sancho, centre-back, and see what happens with Pogba on a midfielder. That seems to be that's the sentence of United's summer transfer window at the moment. Sancho, a centre-back, and see what happens with Pogba in the midfield. That seems to be the message. Now, I would say, well, yeah, Sancho's fine. A centre-back's good. but you can't wait for Pogba to see what's happening. If Pogba stays, the ridiculous thing is, if Pogba says I'm signing a 4-year deal, you still need to buy a Declan Rice. So that's the thing that frustrates me, is that why would we wait for what's happening with Pogba to buy a midfielder? We need a centre defensive midfielder. If if we've got Varane at the back and Sancho on the wing next season, we'll be a better team, but we won't be a hell of a lot better with the same midfield two of McTominay and Fred. And let's not forget, Matic is probably going to move on as well. So I mean, Jimmy Garner looks great, but is he ready next season? No, he needs to have another loan. So we've got to do something in that midfield. Maybe we feel that Pogba will have another year in that midfield. I don't know, because I tell you what I would say is, if Pogba stays another year, it won't be McFred. It can't be McFred. If you bring, and also let me offer a crumb of hope here, because you've always got to be pragmatic, I think. If you get Varane, you play him with Maguire, that centre-back pairing becomes more capable of not being protected by a deep-lying two and fullbacks tucking in. There's no way Wan-Bissaka will be tucking in next season if Varane's there. He'll push him out to the fullbacks. So if you bring Varane in next to Maguire, that defence doesn't need two holding midfielders in front of it, and it doesn't need the fullbacks to tuck in. You can therefore probably pop Pogba into the midfield pivot, because you don't need to protect your centre-backs anymore. Also, if you buy Sancho's on the right, Rashford's on the left, Cavani's up front, Bruno's in behind him. Where does Pogba play if he doesn't play in the pivot? So, there is something to be said that if you buy a centre-back and a right winger in Sancho, Pogba's not going to be playing in the front four. He's going to be back in the midfield anyway. So, maybe that's what Ollie's thinking. And it goes back to what I was asked there. How much do you think United are going to spend this summer? I think if Ollie was managing Man City's budget, if Man United had Man City's owners, I think Ollie would get Declan Rice, Jadon Sancho and Varane and build with that. I think because it's the Glazers, he will probably get Sancho and a centre-back and nothing else, because that's all they can give him. And I think that's what will happen. But yeah. Anyway, look, fantastic show. Friday night. Nice to be done by 8 o'clock on a Friday night. We're normally just about to start. But look, as I said, I normally have these conversations with these people off camera. I messed up. So in a way, we've benefited with my idiot timing, because I haven't spoke to Fabrizio for a little bit. And I was meant to be having the chat with him at 4 o'clock, which I thought was, 5 o'clock Italian time. I thought it was 6 o'clock UK time, but actually it's 4 o'clock UK time. So Fabrizio was very kind to find me half an hour and at 7. And then I said, will you come on live? And he did. So we got him live as well, which is fantastic. So please smash a like on the video. Make sure you subscribe. It's probably well worth watching the interview back for the first 25 minutes when Fabrizio was on, because we were very, very fast paced on that. And, I need to watch it back myself. But thanks everyone for watching. Really enjoyed it. I get to watch a Friday night film now. I don't normally get to finish till 9 o'clock, and I'm always too tired. So I'm going to go and watch a film, and I'm going to watch this back as well, because I need to take some notes. But thanks everyone for watching. I'll see you on the morning show. Probably a little bit later tomorrow. It might be more around midday, but that's because I'm speaking to somebody else in the morning. So we'll see. They might come on live as well. Thanks for watching. Fantastic community as ever. This is what it's all about. Chat, United chat, and I'll speak to you all in a bit.